Welcome to the REI Foundation Podcast, where we cover all the steps and strategies to make your real estate dreams a reality. Now your hosts, Jason and Pili.
Well, hello again, and welcome to another edition of the Real Estate Investing Foundation Podcast here with Jason and Pili. Today it is Jason, as Pili is out there tackling on deals, but we are super excited for today's program. We've been working for a while to have Ryan Inc. on the show. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. And you've got the perfect radio voice, by the way.
Radio better than face, right? So on that point, I'm taking it all the way. So Ryan has the best background. If you're here watching us on YouTube, you can see his background. It was actually his house down in New Orleans is just incredible. So definitely check us out on YouTube. For one, you can get this great view that Ryan has. But a little bit more about Ryan. Ryan is the founder of Columbia Real Estate Investment Club, the author of Rolling Real Estate Formula, and owner of an RV rental fleet. He's also built $2 million indoor sports arenas in New Orleans area. He started his investing journey as a corporate journalist selling copiers at Icon Copy Solutions and left that job in 2007. And today he's helped over 100 people change their life dreams by earning passive income with real estate. And people come to Ryan because he's already helped multiple people reach six figures in passive income by teaching them how he still invests today. And he demonstrates how to invest your way out of debt, real estate investing strategies, how to pick a strategy that works for you, and the 4 principles of overcoming the fear of investing. So really awesome topics. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. And just let's start back then. There's a lot of people that are probably listening today that are saying, well, I'm here in this job that I'm not really feeling passionate about, that I'm not really excited about. And I don't know what I don't know. And I don't know how to take that step out of this job. Well, how did you get from selling copiers at Icon Copy Solutions to leaving the job? What was it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was actually a really, really big gut check. I went from teaching religion at a high school, and then that was when my wife was pregnant for our first child, and Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and so we were actually homeless for a while. But the school where I was teaching was 10 feet underwater. I started scrambling to find a job, and then I finally got this job selling copiers, which I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Office Space where they take the copier in the backfield and beat it with a baseball bat,
Incredible movie. Yeah.
That's basically how people felt about me when I walked in the door unannounced to try to sell them a copier that I didn't even like, and it was the kind of job where I think a lot of your listeners might be able to relate, where you wake up in the morning with anxiety. You're not fully focused on your family when you come home because you're worried about some sort of stress at work. I was a sales rep, so I had quotas that I had to meet, and I actually just hated, the whole process. Learned a lot from it. I don't want to say the whole thing was a waste. Learned a good bit in that job, but just not something that I enjoyed doing. So I actually was driving a causeway in New Orleans, which is the longest bridge in the world across Lake Pontchartrain from the North Shore to the South Shore. And it's a very methodical, kind of ba-dump, ba-dump, ba-dump. It's the same speed for about 40 minutes. And I had just gotten chewed out by a Catholic monk, actually, who I sold a copier to. And it's one of those things where there's, and people could probably relate to this too, that, you might be the only point for a customer, but there's 34 other people involved in the transaction. Everybody else could screw up but you're the one that gets chewed out for it. And so I just got, a chewing out session from this monk, and I hung up the phone and I was like, I have really hit a low point in my life here where I'm waking up every day with anxiety, not present for my family, fluctuating between anxiety and depression, getting chewed out by Catholic monks. Can't get much worse than this. So I had this thought. I did, pray a little bit, and this thought question came in my head, and it was the question, what would you do if money didn't matter? And I thought to myself, well, let's say I had $1 million in my bank account. What would I do? I would probably play music because I play guitar and sing. Or I would open up an indoor sports arena because I love sports. And so I never had this thought before. And I called my wife, and we had never had this talk before. And I said, hey, obviously, I'm miserable. Say we had $1 million in a bank account. Money was no issue. What could you see me doing if money didn't matter? She said, I don't know, maybe opening up like an indoor sports arena or play music or something. So I took that as a sign, and I was like, all right, I didn't have any money at the time. I had, pretty much just overdraft fees in my checking account, but I just decided to start pursuing it. And then shortly after, there was kind of a progression of thought, but shortly after pursuing it, I decided that I was going to use real estate as the vehicle to free myself financially, to replace my working income with passive income so I could pursue my dreams. And long story short, 3 years later, I opened up the indoor sports arena, and a year later, I opened up another one on the other side of New Orleans.
How cool is that? That's a tremendous story. And let's talk about that first real estate opportunity. If you remember, do you remember, because you said you're going to use real estate as that vehicle. How did you choose on that vehicle, and what was the first thing that you stepped into?
Well, I actually, everybody goes through this phase of educating. And so I first educated myself, the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, all this stuff. But at a certain point, I was like, all right, now I'm hitting analysis paralysis, and I don't have time to waste. So I just got to get out there and start doing it and let life teach me how this process works. Mm-hmm. So I started getting out there, driving around, and really putting in offers. That's the name of the game for real estate, is just making offers. You don't know what's a deal until you make an offer. And so I put offers in on single family, multifamily. I really didn't have a good idea of like the strategy for my situation. I was just like, I'm just going to start, offering at everything. And one of the first deals that I remember, now I had my own private residence that I had rent out. So I had like a single family rental already. But the first deal as like an investor, didn't buy it myself and then move. It was a fourplex, and I ended up getting it with owner financing. I used a home equity line of credit as the down payment, and then I got the guy to finance the rest of it, and ended up cash flowing $750 a month. So that was a good start.
Amazing. And if you think back about what you did, a lot of people get stuck, right? They can't do anything. And then when they go, they'll maybe just hone in. You just spread a wide net and said, I'm just going to start offering on things.
Yeah.
Would you do that again? Because it seems like that's a great way just to get after it, right? I mean, you don't know. And sometimes that's what needs to happen, because if you try and find out everything, you never really get anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely recommend getting a mentor to help you, but I would probably do that again, but maybe with the assistance of a mentor to nail down a strategy. Because I was swinging at so many different strategies until one would stick, that I think I wasted a lot of time doing that. If I had just like a narrowed laser focus on what I should pursue with my specific situation, then I probably would have done better. But
Sure.
To answer your question, I definitely recommend just getting out there and doing it, because you will have success. Something will stick, somewhere. And even if you have a mentor, the biggest problem that people with mentors have is that they don't actually do it. They don't actually, take action and go out and make offers.
And you're coming off the point where you have Hurricane Katrina. It sets you out of your home. You have this job that you hate. And it almost gave you the point, right, where you go out there and take action. What's the worst that could happen? And because sometimes people don't really have these points of downward, and they're so worried about the end of the world happening. But ultimately, if you start making offers, it's not like you're stuck having to take the deal if it ends up being a bad deal, or they're not going to come take your dog if it's the wrong real estate opportunity. It's just, you just get out there and take action. So kudos to you. That's incredible. Well, let's talk about the sports arena, right? Because I think another part playing in this is that you had a big why, right? You're going to go out there and get this sports arena open. So tell me how that transcended. Like, how did that come about?
Well, the first thing was, I basically was like, all right, I want to open up an indoor sports arena. I have no idea how that business model works. I just know that I like sports, and I want to be around it. It sounds like it'd be fun, And I played indoor soccer up in the north in college, and I felt like that turf, that little infield turf. And I was like, this is awesome. It'd be awesome to do this. But I had no idea if it was going to be profitable for my family or anything else like that.
Sure.
So the first thing I did is, I take a page from, I don't know if it was Aristotle or Plato, who said, know that you don't know. Maybe it was Socrates, I don't know. But it was basically know that you don't know. And I was like, well, I don't know. So I went looking for a consultant and ended up hiring a consultant to help me get started. Used credit cards to pay for it.
Wow. That's incredible. And tell us, what was the focus when you got it open? Was it just all in rec sports, or what did you eventually do with it?
Yeah, so it's actually a unique it's a unique model, because everybody thinks that if you open up a sports arena, that you're going to have like the most competitive leagues. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, I love competition. I love the trophies. But there's an 80-20 rule that applies in life with most things. You can apply it with real estate. You can apply it with indoor sports arena. And that's that of 100% of your customers, the 20% who are the worst, if you focus on those, will push out the 80% opportunity. And so what you really need to do is focus on your true customers. And again, that applies to real estate, it applies to all kinds of things. So what I learned was my customer is not the competitive soccer or football player, because they think that I should pay them. They think that, the constant referee complaints, fights, that sort of thing. My customer is the over 30 fat beer drinking guy that just wants to get out of the house once a week and have fun with his buddies. So
that's incredible.
That's how indoor arenas, successful ones, run.
How'd you do the metrics on that?
Well, my consultant told me, and I didn't believe him, because I wanted to like have my own competitive league that I could compete in. But
sure.
I quickly learned as a business owner, I'm like, I've got way too many headaches. I'd rather the guy that pays me than the guy that wants me to pay him because he thinks he's a semi-pro or whatever.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
It was kind of a trial and error.
So where did you go after this? Like, let's fast forward to today, because now you've taken this where you're going from selling copiers to doing your first deal, getting a fourplex that's now cash flowing $700 a month, to opening up a sports arena and just having huge success with that. Now today, you're doing a lot of different arenas in the real estate space. You have a book that's out. Tell us more about your journey.
Yeah, so, really how it accelerated for me with real estate is, I kind of took it in phases. And I think a lot of people follow the same formula. And if you could follow this formula, there's really no reason to guess at it. I started out with little to no money. And so I started wholesaling, and I started looking for deals and things that I could do with no money. So creative financing, wholesaling. Obviously, that first deal I got was creative financing, no money down. And I just kind of looked to be creative. I didn't have any money, so I was like, well, I've got some equity in my house. I've got decent credit, get some credit cards. I can muscle up, some sort of down payment if the guy finances the rest. And then it just kind of exploded from there. I started putting my, some of the deals on Facebook. And, it was actually amazing how many people were interested in real estate, but nobody really goes out there and does it. So I ended up finding some money partners. And so then I was able to buy houses in cash. And when I was at that point, I really started working the foreclosure sales. And when I would buy them at foreclosure, typically at 75% of the appraised value in all cash, I'd pay my investors off right away, because I would just refinance this house that I owned in all cash with the bank on like an equity line of credit or something like that. And then with the property, I would use lease options. So instead of selling the house and instead of just renting it out, I basically owner financed it to other people. So in that way, I'd get $10,000 to $60,000 down plus monthly cash flow. And if they ended up buying the house from me 3 or 4 years from now, it was great. It made me feel good that I could help somebody become a homeowner again. And if they didn't, I got to keep that option payment and do it over again. So I really gained some wealth very fast doing that, because I could buy house after house after house after house, leverage the equity with the banks, owner finance it to minimize my risks and increase the potential that I could make on the property. So I developed this large single family portfolio doing that strategy. And at that point, I had published, not in a braggadocious way, but published my success on Facebook and social media. My friends, my networks knew what I was able to do. And so at that point, I had a lot of people that wanted to invest. And I thought to myself, well, foreclosure sales are kind of risky. Single family is kind of risky to have people invest in. You can't inspect the house. And I want to be a good steward of other people's money. And I want to make sure that they are investing and not just speculating. And I wish somebody would have told me that early on in my investing career, the difference between speculating and investing. And so I thought, well, why don't I go for some of these bigger multifamily $1 million to $5 million deals and use other people's money and just kind of syndicate it. And so I followed the model with that, and that takes me to today. I like to help people reach those same milestones. The formula is easy. I mean, it's well documented. It's out there. All you got to do is be a good follower of the formula. You don't have to make things up. So I like to, especially people who are in the same position that I was, that are in the grind and the rat race. They don't feel like they can be present for their family. I feel like I get a lot of fulfillment. I still invest in property all the time, but I get a lot of fulfillment in helping people and mentoring people. And so one of the things that I did, you mentioned the book, one of the things I did to help people get started, because a lot of people are in the same phase as me. You might be working this job and you're like, I've got overdraft fees in my bank account. You don't really know how to leverage the kind of capital you have. So I wrote this book called The 7-Day Real Estate Survival Blueprint: How to Create $10,000 Out of Nothing in Less Than a Month. And what the book shows you is it shows you two strategies. One is a sandwich lease option, and the other is wholesaling. And I really just kind of approached it from the mindset of, say I was dropped in the middle of some random city in the US. I had no network. I didn't know anything about real estate investing. But I had a step-by-step guide, a book, to help me take an action step that would give me the best chance of having a $10,000 check at the end of the month. So I really break it out by the hour, what I would do on 11 o'clock on Tuesday to make sure, like basically step-by-step action plan of what I would do to make sure I had a $10,000 check at the end of the month. So that's what the book is about.
That's incredible. So you're doing this step still actively do this, but I guess the direction I want to go with it is that you said something about having the steps to do this, and they're just out there. That is so true. But why do you think people just don't take the steps? Is it that we always think there's something that we can do better, or is it that there's just too many shiny objects and we don't focus?
Yeah, I think that, and I think you're right. A lot of shiny objects and we don't focus. And I think that fear is an element to that. Like, you might see that this is a formula that works. Does it really work for my situation, or has the market changed? People they come up with excuses out of fear. Mm-hmm. But really, you could chase the shiny objects that are the new things, but there's time-tested models. Sandwich lease options, foreclosures, wholesaling, syndicated apartments, those are all time-tested models. And so really it's about understanding which of those formulas work. And don't chase the newer shiny objects until they're proven. I actually for a long time was mentioning to people like, look, Airbnbs, they're great. There's a huge opportunity. It's a brand new opportunity. It's amazing. But guess what? It's not a proven opportunity yet. As far as time tested, it's 3 or 4 years old. And I have Airbnbs that the county just came in and said, hey, sorry, bam, no more Airbnbs here. And I'm left holding the bag, Yeah. So my recommendation to people is look at those time tested strategies, syndicated apartments. People will always need a place to live. People will always be renting apartments, single families, rentals, those will always be around. So I'm not sure if I got sidetracked or if I actually answered your question, but
no, you did. I think sometimes we all try and find like the Airbnb model. At somewhere, someone's going to find a great direction. People are very successful with it, but is it going to be tried and true? That's still to be determined, right? But there's so many paths that you talked about, lease option, single family, syndicated apartments that have been around forever. And if people are doing them and doing them successfully and doing them consistently, if you just follow those models, same thing we did with just buying apartments. We just found other people that were doing it successfully and just followed their steps. And if you can do that and just follow those guidelines, sure, you're going to take missteps, but it keeps you in the path of finding your journey because you've already seen people accomplish it. Lease options, right? I don't know if we've actually really dived in on a show on lease options. Would you mind giving us an example of a property, maybe how you found it and mock numbers of what a deal may look like, just so people can understand the concept?
Yeah, actually, I'll give you one of my best deals. working the foreclosure sale, I bought this property at 134. I put about 10 grand or so into it. So I was at 144. But really I could get about 229 for it. So I could have just sold it outright. 229 would be the max that I could get for it. I could have just sold it outright, and just kind of flipped it, played the flipping game. But then I lose the opportunity for passive income. And that's the money you make while you sleep, the rental income that comes in. And I could have just leased it, but then I'm dealing with all the headaches as a landlord, where I'm going out and fixing plumbing and fixing pipes and everything else like that. So I put it up for owner financing. And I normally give people 3 different options. You could put 20% down, 10% down, and 5% down. Well, I ended up having this guy who was a contractor, girl that he said was like his daughter. He wanted to help her out and get into her own house, but she didn't have established credit yet. So I was like, okay, so you can get into this house. And I think my expenses per month were, let's just say it was around $1,000, because I don't remember exactly what it was. So he gave me $20,000 down, and he was paying me $1,500 a month. So I got $20,000 up front on this. Plus I was getting $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year in cash flow. Well, about a year and a half into owning it, she decides, they get in like some sort of fight. She decides she doesn't want to live there anymore. And he ends up holding the bag on this. He, as a contractor, did a lot of work to the house, probably put about $20,000 to $30,000 into it. And he tried to sell it for way more than what it was worth. So because with the lease options, you give them the ability to sell it. So there really is no hard eviction process. It's if somebody doesn't pay you, it's actually been way easier with my lease options than it has the regular rentals. If somebody doesn't pay you, just say, hey, look, by this contract, you have the ability to turn around and sell this. So your exit strategy isn't to, just leave and lose your money, because I don't want you to lose $20,000. Your exit strategy is to sell it. So he turned around and tried to sell it. Well, what happens? In a normal eviction, someone damages the property and they leave, right? Mm-hmm. Or they leave their stuff, and it's just like, you got some cleanup and maintenance to do. Well, he ended up fixing up the property and exiting the property, so it was in pristine condition. Well, 2 months goes by. He can't sell it at $260, what he put it on the market for. And he says, look, I just got to stop the bleeding on this. I got to turn this back over to you. I just don't want this to hurt my credit. I said, no problem. So I took the house back. So I did it again. New couple. They kind of both had, just gotten divorces and just got married, bringing a bunch of kids on together. They put $30,000 down. At this point, the property had appreciated. So $239 was the purchase price. Sorry about the boat in the back.
No worries.
$239 was the purchase price. So the value had increased. They put $30,000 down, and I got $1,800 a month in rent. So now I'm cash flowing $800 a month, while already keeping the $20,000 from before. And then they get a divorce. Wow. And they just leave the house, and I say, hey, same thing. Hey, look, you can sell it. Look, we're just done with the house. We're done with each other. So essentially in 2 years, I got a free 50 grand on this particular house. And then the last couple ended up buying it. They put $40,000 down, and their rent was $2,000 a month, and it was the same purchase price, $239,000. And ended up just making a ton of money on just that one house, turning it into a cash cow. And that's why I love the lease options, because they're responsible for the house. Mm-hmm. They've got skin in the game. AC breaks, they fix it. Plumbing breaks, they fix it. They can put renovations as long as they confirm it with you. You're not running out there. You're not hustling people. Hustling people down for money is just, it's a very easy game, and you got your exit strategy already lined up. So
that's incredible.
What good situation
did you have in the properties? You brought it foreclosure in cash, and then you refied it out into a loan. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I refied it out to, I want to say it was like 140 or 150. So I actually got paid a little bit on the refi as well, which is tax-free money. So I want to say it was like in that range.
Incredible. That's an awesome story. Good for you. Awesome property. And so now let's talk a little bit about today with all this going on in the book out here, 7-Day Real Estate Survival Blueprint. What's next?
So I'm going to continue to see if I can expand the amount of people that I can help, at this point. Like I said, I'm still an investor, but it does make me feel good to put my head down on the pillow and to get those testimonies in from people who are like, hey man, thank you for helping me quit my job and spend more time with my kids or pursue this dream or pursue that dream. So that's what I'm doing now. I do mentorship. I have a course, I've got the book, and at this point it's just reaching as many people as possible. That's a lot of fun for me.
I love it. And that probably leads us into, but what would your big why be for everything you're doing?
So when I was opening up the arena, my consultant, the first thing he did was send me back this questionnaire, and the questionnaire had this quote on it, and I thought it was going to be like a feasibility study, but it was all that internal work, what drives you.
Yeah.
And the quote was from Albert Schweitzer, and it said, "This much I know: those of you who have sought and found a way to serve will really be happy." And so that just kind of stood out to me, like, I thought I'd be happy if I just had a ton of money, or I thought I'd be happy if I just didn't have to deal with these headaches at work. But really, I've kind of made it my life's mission to find ways every day to serve other people at a higher level. And so that's kind of what internally drives me is I want to be happy. And I just figured out that being happy means serving other people.
It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for this. For listeners who are, and you'd be a great one to ask this question, right? So for listeners who today are just in your position, right? Or they're just trying to get off the curb or get off the couch and get started, what would one actionable step be for them to do right now to get going in their real estate journey?
All right. So for the listener, I'm assuming that most, right, as like remedially educated in real estate enough to make an offer. Well, the first step is to make offers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because money follows the deals. Everybody wants to know what the first step is with real estate, and it's to get out there and start analyzing deals and making offers. And if you don't know how to do that, I'm sure you've got some resources. They can pick up my book. It's free. All you got to do is pay for the shipping of it.
How do we find the book?
So it's cashflowdadlife.com/7. You can get it on Amazon for like $20, but I think it's like a $7 or $9 shipping charge if you get it at that link.
That's awesome. Well, Ryan, this has been incredible. Learned a ton. It's been great to connect with. For listeners who want to connect more with you, even just find out about more of the resources you have, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
They can either email me at support@cashflowdadlife.com, or if they get the book, they're in the network and they can start connecting with me.
That's incredible. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
That's incredible. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. And to all the listeners out there, we really appreciate you checking us out. If you like what you hear today, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review. Again, you can find us on YouTube as well, so you can see this sick background that Ryan has right in his backyard here. Really appreciate Ryan. Really appreciate all of you listeners out there for taking the time to check out what we have going on today. And again, this is Jason with the Real Estate Investing Foundation podcast. Until next time, bye now.
Thanks for tuning into the REI Foundation podcast. Check back next time for more awesome tips and strategies to launch your new you in real estate.